How do they define love in the New Age?
What's looked at as loving is to never be in confrontation. It's to allow that person to be authentically who they are in that moment, or however you want to spiritualize that. So you consider this to be loving, but really it's a misunderstanding of what real love is.
My question is, what's the alternative? Don't allow them to be who they are? Change who they are? Like, make them become who you want them to be? I don't put a label on my beliefs, meaning I'm not a part of any religion, so I don't consider myself a Christian. I don't consider myself an atheist. I don't consider myself New Age or New Thought, but I will say, if I had to pick a label for what I believe to kind of sum it all up, my beliefs do mostly line up with the New Age, New Thought beliefs. I'm making this video in response to a video I found on YouTube with Alisa Childers Podcast, or video podcast, whatever you're gonna call it. And she's interviewing someone named Melissa, who is an ex-New Ager. And so she has that appeal to authority, meaning since I was a part of this group, or since I was a part of this belief system, I know what they believe, and therefore I can tell you all about their beliefs and what's wrong with them. What I'm responding to is a part where they're talking about love. Alisa asked, how does New Age define love? And this love is just completely misrepresented on behalf of New Agers, because the thing is, Melissa is now a Christian and is into a Christian apologetics. So her answers, of course, she's motivated to make New Age and New Thought sound more ridiculous than it actually is, because, well, I'm not New Age anymore, I'm Christian, and I want New Age people to realize they're wrong. So I understand the misrepresentation, but it's still, to me, not right. And so I'm responding to clear up some of the straw manning and misrepresenting she's doing, intentionally or unintentionally. It's not right to do. So I'm just gonna clear some of this stuff up.
I was curious to ask you too, because you mentioned they in New Age and New Thought, they put aside the ideas of wrath because Jesus is love. It's all about love. How do they define love in the New Age?
That's a good question. Love is looked at as more of think of like a utopian type, peaceful. You're not going around, there's no anger, there's no bitterness. So think of all the negativity that you can think of. To them, it's very loving to never be negative to anybody or anything. In that sense, that would be like a sin in that sense.
Yeah.
Thou shalt not judge, thou shalt not be negative.
Yeah.
That's a big one. So love is actually a very toxic type of love.
So far, she's describing love as utopian and peaceful. My issue is I don't see what's wrong with either of those. If utopian's meaning like a feel good, I think love does feel good. Peaceful, I think love is peaceful. If you're trying to describe how New Age has gotten that wrong, I don't see how that's wrong so far. But then the next thing you say is that there's no anger. Here's what I think. I have family, I have friends, I have people that I love. If somebody was to harm someone I love, I'm going to be angry. I'm not positive what she means by there's no anger. Does it mean that I'm not supposed to ever be angry at someone I love? See, that the idea that there's no anger in love, I would call that true. I would say, if I'm loving somebody, even if I'm correcting them, even if I'm addressing an issue, and we're gonna get to confrontation later because that does come up. But in that situation, love doesn't require anger. So to say that, well, their version of love, there is no anger, is that wrong? Then she says, there is no bitterness. And I mean, is there supposed to be? If you're talking about how New Age has love all wrong, and you say, well, they think there's no bitterness. And I'm saying, are you saying that there is bitterness in love? Is that what love is to you? You're supposed to somehow be bitter? I don't think that's right. And then she goes on to say that think of anything negative, everything negative you can think of. They think that love is about never being negative. I wouldn't even describe it that way. I wouldn't say that's the belief, is love is never being negative. My question to that would be though, why do you think that love requires negativity? What is the negativity that's supposed to be there? I think the negativity you're talking about has to do with confronting people, which that's going to come up later. But confronting somebody can be positive. I think even in the Christian language, I guess I would call it, you confront or you address somebody with love, that's a positive act. So what are you calling negative? Then she ends it with basically their version of love, meaning New Age, New Thought version of love, is a very toxic type of love because there's not supposed to be negativity, there's not supposed to be anger, and there's not supposed to be bitterness. Which is confusing because it's like, are you saying that all of those things are supposed to be there? Are we supposed to be angry? Are we supposed to be bitter? And are we supposed to be negative? And that's how we show love? Is that how you Christians do it? Meaning not all Christians, but is that how you think it should be done? I mean, I have a problem with that, but we're just going to keep going. Let's go to the next clip.
I would look at somebody who's living a life of sin. All right, say they're destructive. The loving thing to do is to support them, is to show them love, to show them some sort of emotional fulfillment in the moment. And it really is like watching somebody drown and you're just kind of, you can do it. You're doing great. You're doing wonderful, but you're not really giving them what they need to get out of that situation.
It sounds like enabling. Like how you would enable a drug addict or something along those lines.
So this is where, for me, it starts to get ridiculous. Because just the way she laid that out is, if I were to see someone living in sin, if I were to see someone who is destroying themselves, the loving thing to do is to support them. I know how you mean that. Like, I know how she's saying that. And nobody thinks that you're supposed to go and encourage someone in destroying themselves, which is how she's laying that out. To say that you would see somebody, she calls it living in sin. I wouldn't see it that way, but let's just go with that. If I were to see somebody living in sin, the thing to do is not to go up to them and say, hey, sin more, which is how she laid that out. It is to encourage them. No, it's not. No one does that. I mean, I guess people do, but that's not what New Age, New Thought teaches. No one says, hey, if you see someone destroying themselves, your job is to go encourage them, push them further into it. This is where these arguments start to get ridiculous. It's hard to take that seriously because it's not realistic. You don't have to be a part of a religion. You don't have to be a part of any belief system to have the human decency to want to help someone who's destroying themselves. So to lay it out as, well, they believe that if someone is being destructive, you're supposed to go support them. I would say this, as far as supporting them, I don't see anything wrong with that. If support is, hey, looks like you might need some help, I'm here for you. I'm here to support you in getting you out of this situation. That kind of support, if that's what you meant, I know that's not what you meant, but that type of support, that is good. That if you see someone being destructive, support them. Let them know that they have somebody, that somebody has their back. But the part where you say, it's like watching someone drown, and then you're going, yay, you can do it. All I'm saying, and I might not change her mind, even if who knows if she'll even see this. But to the person who's listening to or watching this, how realistic does it sound that a belief system is teaching you if you see somebody drown? And I know this was just an exaggeration, but since it's being used, that if you're seeing someone drown, you're clapping and going, yay, you can do it. the straw manning is just heavy in this one. And straw manning just makes your own argument look that much more ridiculous, because nobody is learning to go and treat people that way, where you're watching them basically die for what they consider it, and you're cheering them on while watching them die. I understand the point they're trying to make. They're just doing a bad job of making that point, sitting there laying it out this way. And it's two people who agree with each other, so nobody's gonna challenge that idea. They're both sitting here laughing and nodding their heads like, haha, yeah, that is, they are like that. No. This is why it's good to have it. Like, I understand this is somebody's podcast. She has a guest on, they're talking about a certain topic, all that, fine. But it's just better to really think about what's going on when the echo chamber idea. You have two people who agree. Nobody's gonna challenge what's being said here. And so she can say something as ridiculous as, those people will watch somebody drown themselves. And nobody goes, wait a minute, really? Really, is that what they'll do? Well, that's what I'm doing here right now. Really? Is that what they'll do? Is that what people will do? Is that what they're learning to do? So I highly doubt that. I know I wouldn't do it. My ideas line up mostly with the New Age and New Thought, and I would not watch someone destroy themselves. That's not what I have learned to do.
Sounds like enabling, like
Yes.
how you would enable a drug addict or something along those lines.
Yes, that's actually a very good way of putting it. What's looked at as loving is to never be in confrontation, to never fight. It's to allow that person to be authentically who they are in that moment, or however you want to spiritualize that, however you want to put a label on that. But really, it's if you were, and the reason why they think that is because how you're treating somebody else, you believe is going to come back on you. So if you're treating them with disdain, or if you're judging them by telling them, hey man, maybe this isn't good for you. I see you falling down and you're making really bad choices. I mean, those are judgments that you're putting on somebody else. So you don't want that. So you don't do that to them. Number two, a lot of people don't like confrontation in these circles. So if you are going to invoke some sort of anger from them, you stay quiet. So you consider this to be loving, but really it's a misunderstanding of what real love is. Love is really a choice more than a feeling, and it's an action. Sometimes it's a verb, and depending on how you look at it, Jesus died for us because he loved us. So if we're going to look at the biblical view of love, a lot of times it's a sacrificial love.
Right.
So I don't think New Agers have any concept of that. To them, it's a fluffy, feel good, cotton candy and daisies and unicorns type of thing.
So I'm going to talk about the sacrificial love first that New Age and New Thought doesn't understand. Let's say, like, one of the most common scenarios where sacrifice or sacrificial love can be displayed. If there's, especially my kid, if my child is out playing in the street and a car is coming, the car doesn't see the kid doesn't see the car, I will sacrifice my life because of my love for them to save their life. I don't even think it'd be a thought. I don't think that's something you have to learn. So she's taking things that are kind of human nature. And that's one of the things about Christianity, is that they think they have the corner on morality. Like, without our version of God, you wouldn't even have a morality. That's a whole nother thing. But when this kind of thing comes up, it's like sacrificial love is kind of a part of human nature. A lot of people would sacrifice themselves for someone they love. That's not something you have to learn in a religious system or a belief system or any of that. For a lot of people, that comes naturally. I don't even understand why you said that, but I mean, I do understand, because you're trying to trash a belief system that doesn't agree with yours. But I just feel like that weakens what you're saying to say something so ridiculous. The issue is, though, what I do understand is a lot of people, especially people who already agree with you, a lot of people will listen to that and not even have a second thought about it. They won't even examine, or they won't even basically critique what you're saying. They just, yeah. Because that's what, I mean, everything Melissa's saying, you don't see Alisa question any of it. You don't see Alisa challenge any of it. She's just nodding her head like, yep. Like, we both agree. We're both on the same side here, and everything you say, just, yep. Well, somebody needs to say, hey, that's not, what you're saying is not accurate. But I digress. To describe it as a fluffy, feel-good rainbows and unicorns and just making it sound like this ridiculous idea of love, I guess you can do that, but it doesn't make you right about it. And if that's what Melissa learned when she was studying New Age, or I don't even know how deep into it she was, but this is her idea. It seems like she has a very surface level of what she's describing as New Age is what people who barely know anything about New Age would say about it. You don't really know. You just know what you've heard, or you know some surface level stuff about it. And so you can take those pieces and make something ridiculous out of it, make it sound worse than it is. If that's honestly what you learned, then I guess that's all you have to work with. But that's not accurate as far as the actual beliefs. You're just doing a bad job at accurately representing New Age, New Thought beliefs, because they are not this. They're not what you're saying. I just want to mention, and I don't even know how to phrase this how I mean it in my head, but I just want to mention the idea that you have to start with the belief that, first of all, the Bible is the foundation of all truth. Not everybody agrees with that. I don't. But when you want to talk about what real love is, since the Bible is your foundation, then only the Bible is describing what real love is. So you kind of have the corner on real love as well. Since your book is the truth and you believe in that book and you teach from that book, and your idea of love is based on that book. So any idea outside of that book is not the real. Just because you believe in your book and you believe your book contains the real doesn't make that a fact at all. Let's look at confrontation, because she talks about how New Age people don't like confrontation. And I think that definitely depends on what type of confrontation we're talking about, because one type of confrontation is that you're coming with hostile or angry intent. You're coming aggressive, confrontational in a negative way that's stirring up negative energy, basically. Then there's another confrontation where you are meeting an issue face to face in order to solve it. And it's entirely different in the way that, and I mean, you can even look up the word confront or confrontation, and those two different definitions are there. One is with hostile or argumentative intent, and the other one is to meet or face up to a problem or a situation. Which one are you talking about? Because I think that any reasonable person, again, this doesn't have to do with religion or belief systems. I think it's just about human nature that people are willing to confront issues or confront problems. But if you're trying to describe it as they're supposed to be willing to go and be hostile and argumentative, no, that's not love. Are you describing love to be that? That they're supposed to be hostile and argumentative? I just feel like you're doing a bad job. And I don't mean that as an insult, and I don't mean that personally. But with the arguments that you're laying out, or not even arguments, what you're saying is not accurate. So it just sounds bad. So the part that kind of makes me laugh is she's saying New Age and New Thought, their idea of love is to allow them to be who they authentically are in that moment. My question is, what's the alternative? Don't allow them to be who they are? Change who they are? Like, make them become who you want them to be? Or worse, make them become who you want them to be by telling them it's who God wants them to be? I'm almost mind blown that you're trying to make it a negative thing, a not love thing, to allow someone to be who they authentically are in that moment. That really just feels crazy. Somebody explain what that's supposed to mean.
Last week, Frank Turek posted a meme on Instagram that I think was such a powerful visual. You know which one I'm talking about. It has this picture of a hand where the body is completely submerged underwater, and you've got this hand sticking up above the water asking for help. And then in the next scene, another hand is coming, and it looks like it's going to help. Then essentially the hand that's supposed to help gives the drowning hand a high five, and then the drowning hand goes under the water. I think that is just, I don't think there could be a better visual for what you're talking about. This sort of cotton candy feel good love, which we see also again in the progressive church as well. This is why I've been so intrigued with the similarities that between New Age, New Thought and progressive Christianity. And so
I understand the point that they're trying to get across. I think it's a bad idea to try to paint somebody else to be so ridiculous though, because I really feel like that weakens, and I'm not trying to tell them to have, well, let me see. I think it really weakens their argument to be that ridiculous about it though. Like, an entire group of people, as far as New Age and New Thought, are represented as the type of people who would see somebody drowning, see somebody's hand reaching out of the water, and their hand would come high five them and let them drown. That's not even realistic. And I'll say it again, that's the problem with two people sitting here who agree with each other, who won't challenge these ridiculous ideas. I get it, they want to sit there and laugh about it and make it sound so ridiculous. And that's fine, do that. But what are you trying to do here? Is this just for people? Is this for the echo chamber? Is this entertainment for the people who already think like you? So now you guys can all sit here and laugh at somebody? Is this like a trash talking session? Because who are you helping? That doesn't help anybody. It's just sad to see it addressed this way. It doesn't even seem serious. It doesn't even seem like it's supposed to be taken seriously. This is not me trying to just defend New Age and New Thought, because like I said, I really would prefer not to have any type of labels about that, but I get it. And like I said, my beliefs would mostly line up with those beliefs. But this isn't like some defense of New Age and everybody should think New Age or everybody should think New Thought type of thing, but it's just to clear up the misunderstanding or the misrepresentation. People who are learning something other than Christianity are not learning to allow people to drown. Also, if you ask, okay, then what is it that you're learning? If it had to do with that. So I know the drowning thing is just an exaggerated metaphor, but kind of going along with that. If somebody was destroying themselves, it is true that I have learned that it's not my job to just go get in their business, to just go interfere with their life, to just go tell them, hey, you're on the wrong track and you need to get it right. That's really not my job to do. I think if I can help them, I'm more than willing to. And if they're willing to accept the help, if they even want help, because newsflash, some people don't. Some people don't think they need the help. And if they don't think they need the help, they're not going to take your help regardless. You can't force them to. And that kind of seems like what they think the point is. Like, you need to go let them know that they're going down the wrong path, and you need to steer them to the right path. It's like, okay, if you think you're supposed to do that, then do that. But the way I've learned it is not to just go butt in somebody's business and start telling them how they're wrong. It's not about it's not about not being judgmental. It's about being there for someone, being available, let them know that you're there to help them if they need the help, but you don't just force your way in. Even your God doesn't do that, which is tricky because sometimes you say God just does intervene, but then God also won't intervene. God does interfere, but then he also won't interfere. I've seen both sides of that. But let's go with the part where you say, well, God doesn't, you have free will, and God doesn't just interject himself into your life and make you do the right thing. Yet somehow you people, and I don't mean you people, what do you mean you people? But somehow as people, you're supposed to just go cause confrontation, cause people to see that they're wrong, and save them from themselves. Yes, New Age, New Thought teaches that that's not your job to do, but be available. Make sure you're lined up. Make sure that you're in connection with God, that God is leading your own life. That way you can help somebody. If you're full of God, then you can pour out into somebody else who needs God. But you're not to just go and just force it on them. Especially, and I'm going off of stuff that she said in this video. Oh, they don't want to be confrontational. So you do want to be confrontational, which means it sounds like you mean that you think people are supposed to go and stir up mess, cause a problem, cause them to see themselves, tell them that they're wrong, make them right. Yeah, you right. New Age, New Thought does not teach it that way. Congratulations. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be the person who's going around being confrontational, argumentative, hostile, because that's what real love is. Sounds bad to me. But if that's what you think that's supposed to happen, go right ahead. I will agree that that's not what I've learned in these New Age and New Thought teachings. So it is more about being in alignment, helping when you can, and if they don't accept my help, that has to be okay, because I can't force them to. That's not even difficult to understand. That almost seems normal. That feels like common sense. That feels like something that everyone should know. Be available to help them. If they don't want your help, if they won't receive your help, that has to be okay. So what's the confrontation about? What's the negativity about? How is that stuff love? How is that stuff loving? I do want to be clear about this. There probably are people out there teaching New Age the way she's describing it. As much as I think she's misrepresenting and strawmanning, it is possible that she has learned New Age that way and is genuinely talking about her experience and what she knows about it. Doesn't make it right though. If that's her experience, she can talk about her experience, but she's representing New Age thinks this, and that's inaccurate. And that's what I'm addressing. It's always best that you look into things for yourself. I want to share my ideas. I want to share my thoughts so that they can be helpful. They can be a tool that you use, but don't let me be the thing that brings you to any conclusion too. You have to look into stuff for yourself and think for yourself to come to conclusions. The wisest thing you can do is your own research. You might research and come to believe the same thing that they believe. You might do your own research and find out you don't agree with anything I'm saying. That's perfectly fine, but at least you did your own research and at least you did your own thinking. A lot of people will watch this, and I know the whole thing about algorithms and the whole thing about echo chambers and all that stuff. A lot of people who watch this are basically going to be on their side. They're going to agree with them Nobody's really going to be compelled to challenge the ideas they're going over. And yeah, that stuff can be funny. You're trying to make somebody sound ridiculous, and it's like, ha ha ha. The meme said that the hand was supposed to help, but instead it high-fived and hi, let him drown and ha. And they're just both sitting there agreeing. And it's just like, come on. That's not even realistic. I don't want to beat a dead horse with that. I just want to make a point about how we need to think about these things. I'm not saying one idea is better than the other. I'm saying think about it. I'm not saying listen to me, just think about it. I'm not saying listen to them or don't listen to them. Just think about it. Come to your own conclusions. At the end of the day, every time I make a video, every time I make a recording, it's always for one thing. I want you to seek for yourself, think for yourself, rediscover your source.